Next up is Trek Medics International. Jason, come on up.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jason Friesen. I'm a paramedic and the founder of Trek Medics International. Along with my colleagues Mike, Leticia, and David, we're here to give you a little presentation on what we are up to. So, Trek Medics International, as I mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization and we develop 911 systems in countries that don't have them. So many people don't understand this or are aware of this, but if you and I were to go out into any street in the United States and ask the first 10 people we meet, what would you do if somebody were hit by a car in front of you? And 10 out of 10 are going to say the same thing. I'd call 911, which is what they're supposed to do. However, if you leave the 20 wealthiest nations and you go to, for example, rural Dominican Republic, where we have one program, or if you go to urban Tanzania, where we have a second program, and you ask the same question to the first 10 people you meet, they're not going to say, I'd call 911. But if you ask them and you listen to what they're saying, you're going to begin to hear patterns. And these patterns are describing an informal emergency response system that is unreliable, it is uncoordinated, it is inefficient, but it is surprisingly robust, nearly ubiquitous, and provides great value for healthcare and emergency care in these communities. So I'll explain to you how this works. So we'll be invited to a community and we will identify first the people in this informal emergency response system and we will train them in basic emergency care. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, first aid, right? Nothing special, but what works. And they're usually, taxi cab drivers, commercial transport vehicle drivers. Maybe they are the young, underemployed, but completely able youth sitting on the side of the road with a mobile phone in one hand and a motorcycle next to them. So we train them, and once we finish training them, we sign up their phones by simply putting their phone number in our software, Beacon. Beacon is an SMS-based emergency medical dispatching software designed specifically for communities that can't afford or don't need advanced 911 technologies. So the way this works is once we've registered them or signed their phones up, then we have a huge net or, we have a large group of responders. And the way it works is that if there's an accident, for example, at the bridge, somebody will call up the fire department and say, there's an accident at the bridge. And Mike will show it. As the dispatcher, he'll type that in, and then he'll say, create an incident. As soon as he creates the incident, that goes out through Beacon to all of the cell phones in the community of the responders that we've trained. Smartphone, feature phone, internet connection, no internet connection, it doesn't matter. It shows up on their phone as an alert, and the alert will say there is an incident at the bridge, as you can see. So if you can respond, tell us how many minutes you can respond. In this case, I said I'll be there in 10 minutes, so I send that out. Beacon starts receiving messages from all the people in the community who can say, I can help. And let's say 50 people say, I can help. We don't want 50 people to show up next to, to this patient. So Beacon will find out who's the most appropriate and who's the closest. And it'll say, okay, you 4 go. Everybody else stand down. So then Beacon says, okay, you 4 people advance. When you get on scene, let us know. So I proceed to location. When I get there, I push 1. I'm here. Then Beacon says, if I'm the first on scene, Beacon will say, okay, do you need additional resources? And as you can see, I'm looking, okay, there's one other first responder coming, and he'll be here in 11 minutes. I'm looking at one patient. I think we're okay. We don't need any more help. Now, if it were a bus rollover with 15 patients in the middle of the road, we're going to need more help, so we could request it right then. In this case, I say, no, I don't need any help. Then it says, okay, what hospital are you going to transport to? I've got three choices. Here I'm going to go to Long Island Jewish, right? So I'd say I'm going to Hospital 1. I'm going with 2 patients, and I'll be there in 15 minutes, and I hit enter. As soon as I send that, another text message gets sent to Long Island Jewish that says, here comes Jason with 2 patients. He'll be here in 15 minutes. Or, I know on the bridge there was only 1, but now there are 2, just so you know. So he's coming with 2 patients, and here's his phone number. And then finally, the last text that Beacon wants to know is, when you get to the hospital, let us know. So here I am at the hospital. I push 1. I've arrived on scene, and then Beacon will come back and say, these are your response times. So this seems very simple, right? This is exactly what happens in the ambulances in the United States. They have 5 steps every time. It doesn't matter what the patient is, a pregnant woman, if it's a car accident, or if it's something, a mass casualty incident, it's always the same. So what we've done is we've taken the pagers, we've taken the 911 dispatch center, and we've taken the mobile data terminals, which are the computers in all of the ambulances, and we've put them on a simple mobile phone with text messages only. So you can see that there's a lot of opportunity for this across the developing world where they don't have the money or the resources for what we do, but they certainly have the need for it, and everybody's carrying around phones. So that's our organization in a snapshot, and thank you very much for your time.
Now time for questions. Who has a question for either Bestow or Trek Medics? Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a question for Deacon. Do you have a hybrid scenario where you operate with partial 911 or similar service and text messaging, or is it only an either-or kind of situation?
The question was, do you have a hybrid where you operate with both the 911 and the SMS messaging?
Yeah, so to answer your question, there are a lot of opportunities for that in the United States where you have existing CADs, computer-aided dispatches, that a lot of these rural fire departments use and whatnot. There's certainly opportunity for that, and we have had a lot of discussions, but we're focused at the moment in developing countries where they don't have anything that's already existing. So that actually makes things easier for us because the CADs in the fire departments are oftentimes developed since the 1960s incrementally. It becomes very convoluted, all landline-based systems. So the answer is yes. We're just not doing it so much at this point.
Next. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Mr.
Wait. The question is about the data plans in some of these countries and if there's a way to override the limited data plans that are available.
Yeah, the long and short of the answer is yes. There are multiple options that we can have. One of the things that we do presently with the volunteers that we have in Dominican Republic and Tanzania is that we give them smartphones with completely paid data plans, text messages, so we never have that problem. Because you can imagine, we've seen it time and time again that somebody will get a text message and they can respond, but then you run out of text messages, so you can't go through the whole sequence. There are a lot of other ways that we can do it so we can get billed after the fact, but the reality is that we definitely want to make sure, we do everything we can to make sure that those are not problems.
Yes, ma'am. The question is, do you identify skills that are already there besides training people?
Yes, absolutely. Our entire approach is to say that we are leveraging available resources to strengthen existing systems. And we found that these communities can build 911 systems. Largely 90% of the resources that they need are already available in the community. So that could be training, but it's also transportation, communications, management. We work with the fire departments. We work with the Red Cross or the Civil Defense. In the Dominican Republic, we're also working with the banana plantations to train their workers and to get a wider spread distribution in the community so that there's a greater coverage for emergency response. So yes, we are looking not just training, but whether it's physical, human, or financial resources. Absolutely.
Great, and time for one last question for this group. Yes, sir. The question for Trek Medics is, in some of these countries, how do you address the issue of addressing and the lack of grid systems?
Yes, if the address is 300 meters north of the Fourth River, it works. Everybody knows where it is. So whatever they tell us, at the fire department, if they call up and say, there's an incident at the beach Juan Bolaño or something like that, they can give specific markers that everybody knows. So we more are, I would say, like natural or geographic landmarks than we're talking about specific street names and street numbers. And we found time and time again that the responders know exactly where these locations are. They're very well known within the communities. So that's a problem, but not as big as a problem you'd think.
Awesome. Let's give this group another round of applause. They're a terrific start to the night. Thank you.